We are still in chapter 6, Mishnah number 6 of Pirkei Avos. We've been here for a while, and we're learning about the 48 ways to wisdom. Our sages, giants, titans, these absolute exemplars of wisdom and of Torah, they distilled all of the paths to achieve Torah, to achieve wisdom, to connect on the deepest level that a human can with the Almighty. They distilled it into 48 different avenues, 48 different pathways, 48 ways to wisdom. And we're going through them one at a time to try to understand what they're telling us and how exactly these respective ways contribute towards wisdom. We all want wisdom. We all want a connection with the Almighty. We all want to have a little foothold, a beachhead in the afterlife. We want to tend to our soul. We want to connect to something higher, something greater, something grander than the basic world that we're inhabiting. And the way to do that is with Torah. But how do we get Torah? What are the ways, the means of acquisition? There are 48 different ways, and we're doing them one at a time. And we're up to way number 31, which is Ohev es habrios, someone who loves humanity. You love humanity? That's a way to achieve divine wisdom, to achieve Torah. We previously had loving God. That, of course, seems to connect more directly with Torah. But here we're told you love humanity. You love your fellow members of the human race, the human species. You love them, and that is a way to achieve wisdom. What exactly does it mean to love humanity? And how exactly does it enable the acquisition of Torah? That is our subject today in way number 31 of the 48 ways to wisdom, loving humanity. And I want to share 3 different approaches. We'll start with the simple one, and we'll go a bit more advanced and complex as we proceed. We had previously in Pirkei Avos, we studied this like in 2017, so if you don't remember it, I'll forgive you. We had a Mishnah that tells us, this is all the way in chapter 1, we're in chapter 6, chapter 1, a Mishnah that instructs us to model ourselves after Aaron. We should be students of Aaron, having me Talmidav shel Aaron. Ohev es habrios, someone who loves humanity, umekarvan la Torah, and brings them close to Torah. Aaron the high priest, Aaron, Moshe's brother, one of the great heroes of the Torah, one of the 7 shepherds of the Jewish people, as we're told. Aaron, he is exemplified. His characteristic that we're told to emulate is, first, it's someone who loves peace, oev shalom. Rodev shalom, someone who pursues peace. Oev es habrios, someone who loves humanity. Umekarvan la Torah, and brings them close to Torah. So what we're told on a very basic level is that if you love humanity, it means you care for them. If you care for them, you want to improve their lives. And what improves your life more than Torah? Absolutely nothing. The best way for someone to improve their lives is to connect them to Torah. So if you love humanity, you're obviously going to be interested in the betterment of humanity, in the improvement of people's lives. And therefore, if you love humanity, you will bring them close to Torah. And that's what Aaron did, and that's what we're supposed to model ourselves after. So one of the commentaries, so it's really a basic idea. We're told in chapter 1 that Aaron loved humanity and brought them close to Torah, and we're supposed to emulate that. And now we're told in chapter 6 of Pirkei Avos that we should try to achieve love of humanity in order for ourselves to achieve Torah. It's obvious what the connection is. Aaron loved humanity and he connected them to Torah as a result. He brought them close to Torah as a result. If we love humanity, we will do the same. We too will model ourselves after Aaron and try to bring people that we love, bring them closer to Torah. Now, it still doesn't explain how this will make ourselves more likely to be a receptacle of Torah. If I love humanity, I bring them close to Torah. How does that improve my Torah? How does that advance my pursuit of wisdom, of divine wisdom? I get it. Aaron loved humanity, brought them close to Torah. If we love humanity, we will bring others close to Torah. I get that. But how does that bring ourselves closer to Torah? The answer, of course, is that one of the best ways to study is to teach. Because if you study, and that's great, that's wonderful, but you know when you really need to study? When you teach. Because when you teach, everyone comes up with questions, and you have to understand not just the material on your own, but well enough to teach it, well enough to present it so someone else can absorb it and understand it. The Talmud tells us, one of the great sages said, I learned so much Torah from my teachers. But even more than what my teachers taught me, my colleagues, my contemporaries, my fellow students taught me even more than my teachers. Umi talmidai yoter mikulam. And from my students, I learned even more than everyone else. So my teachers, those above me, I learned a lot. But those who are on the same level as me, I learned even more. And my students who are below me, so to speak, I'm teaching to them. They taught me more than even my teachers taught me. How do you learn? One of the best ways is to teach. If you are forced to give a lecture on a subject, you will know it way better than if you were not forced to give a lecture on a given subject. I have some personal experience with this. You could study, you know it well enough, okay, you could kind of fudge your way through it. You could pretend. It's very easy to pretend.
We just thought.
Oh, okay. You thought so, but that was a mistake. It's very easy to pretend. It's very easy to delude yourself. But you can't delude others as easily. You teach, then you will truly know. So if you love humanity, it's very easy to see how that's going to make you a better student of Torah. You love humanity and you want to teach them. You teach them, you have to know yourself even better. You love humanity. That is a way to achieve Torah. That's a basic idea that we find in the commentaries on this Mishnah. But let's go a bit further. Let's go a bit more advanced. What does it mean to love humanity? We love ourselves. We love our parents, our siblings, our spouses, our children. Loving humanity means to love people who are outside of your immediate orbit, right? What does it mean to love them? It means to love them like you love yourself. It means to feel their pain when they're experiencing pain. It means to rejoice in their pleasure when they're succeeding. It means to feel a kinship, a brotherhood, to equate yourself with others. When someone else feels pain, you don't feel it in your senses. But if you love them, that pain will ripple through them and you yourself will experience it. So to love humanity, it also means to empathize with others. This quality of having empathy for others, in a very counterintuitive way, it actually makes a person a better candidate for the Almighty's Torah. And I'll prove it to you. Who is the greatest receptacle of Torah of all time? That's Moshe, of course. He was the one who, he exemplifies Torah study and Torah knowledge more than anyone else. He was the one who was the original student of Torah. He went up to heaven and got the Torah from the Almighty himself. What is the first thing we're told about Moshe? The very first thing we're told about Moshe, chapter 2 of Exodus, as an adult. We're told that he went out and he felt the pain of others. He saw in their suffering. Vayar b'sivlosam. He was a prince. And he could have stayed in the ivory tower. He could have been just very comfortable in the palace as a prince, as an adopted son of Pharaoh. He never needed to go out and see the suffering of his co-religionists, of his brethren. But that's what he did. And that's, in fact, the first thing that we're told about him. And in fact, if you study the progression of Moshe, the coming of age story of Moshe, you see that the very first things we're told about him, he went and he saw the suffering of his fellows. And then he went and he saw an Egyptian man striking the Hebrew man and he intervened. If someone's hitting a Hebrew man, it's like they're hitting me, I'm going to fight back. He goes and he kills the Egyptian. The next day he sees two Hebrews fighting and he intervenes again. He cares for others. And then he is banished. He goes to Midian. He sees the daughters of Jethro being harassed. And again he intervenes. He's displaying care for others. He's feeling the pain of others. And that's a string of events that we're told at the beginning of Moshe's life, before we even know that Moshe is destined to ascend to heaven and to get the Torah and to spend 40 days and 40 nights without eating, without drinking in heaven on high. We don't know that about him yet. The first thing we're told, the introduction to Moshe's character, that is his empathy. And the Midrash tells us something unbelievable. Moshe's beginning of his life, beginning of his storyline, that is the cause for everything else that ensued. Moshe became the purveyor of Torah. Why? Why did he become worthy of receiving all this Torah and then teaching it onward? It's because of his empathy. And the Midrash tells us, it describes what he would do. He would go witness the suffering of the Hebrew slaves, and he would try to help as best as he could with their brickwork. And he would try to intervene with Pharaoh and say, well, we have to help them, give them a day off so that way they could be stronger to work, and so on. He invested his time and his concern and his mind with his brethren. Even though he was a prince, they were slaves. He said, I'm not a prince. I'm going to go and feel brotherhood with these people. He left his perch and he went down. He lowered himself. Says the Midrash, God says, Moshe, you left your perch on high and you went down below. I will do the same. I will leave the heavens and go to you. Just like you left the great heights that you could have been very comfortable in, and you went down and you lowered yourself to the level of those slaves, I will do the same for you. I will leave the heavens and all that spheres, and I will go talk to you, a lowly human. Why did Moshe become deserving of Torah more than anyone else? Because of his empathy. If you think about it, what is Torah? It's godly, divine wisdom. Us humans really have no right, have no business having any association with Torah. It doesn't really make sense. Because we're here, we're animalistic, we're on this world, we're connected to physicality. We're much more physical beings, at least on a sensory level. We're much more physical than spiritual. We have no business having the Almighty Torah. Why do we have it? Because Moshe lowered himself. God says, okay, I will lower myself, so to speak. I will take the heavenly Torah and lower it and make it accessible to lowly, fragile, fallible, mortal humans. This tells us that really one of the means of acquisition of Torah is lowering oneself, is feeling the pain of others, is loving others, loving not just those who are kind of on a socioeconomic or a spiritual level higher than you, who are culturally, socially higher. What does Moshe do? He loves his brethren and he sees their suffering and he lowers himself. I'm not a prince. I'm going to go schlep and carry bricks just like you are doing. That act of lowering oneself in love of others, that makes a person worthy of God, so to speak, as it were. So to speak, lowering himself and making that person worthy of what's really belonging in heaven on high. Torah is godly wisdom. We want a slice of that here. That's what we want. We want a little chunk of that while we're here. And that is really, it's a violation of the rules because you're here. And how do you render yourself deserving of what is above you? The way to do that is the way Moshe did it. If you say, I'm not above, I'm going to go below. I'm going to love others, even if they're maybe lower than me. That makes a person worthy of Torah. The Talmud tells us that one of the characteristics, about the primary characteristic that renders a person worthy of Torah is humility. Torah is like water, the Talmud tells us. Just as water pools at the lowest point. Water follows gravity. It pools at the lowest point. Torah pools in those who lower themselves. Moshe is the humblest of men. He is the greatest receptacle of Torah. And his humility is very much connected with his empathy. He's empathizing. He's humble. He's not saying, oh, I'm better than you. He's lowering himself. That makes him worthy of Torah. That makes him a place where Torah can cool if we do the same. We love humanity, even if they're lower than us. That's an act of love and humility. That's what Moshe did. That's what we can do as well. And that's way number 31 of the 48 Ways to Wisdom. But there's more. The final idea, going even deeper, deeper, deeper. Humans, we're a strange bunch. We're odd. If you ever watch like a video of animals fighting, the hyenas and the lions going after it in the savannah, or the hippopotamuses congregating, or the crocodiles. Somehow the animals, the species always stick together. It's the lions versus the hyenas, right? It's just there's something natural about members of the same species to work together. How come we don't have that same quality? How come we're always fighting with each other? Isn't it interesting that there's apparent uniformity and unity of purpose amongst the animals, but not amongst us? Why do we have so much discord and division amongst ourselves? The answer is because we have a Yetzer Hara. We have an evil inclination. And the definition of the evil inclination is that it creates division between man and God, division between man and man's fellow. When we say man, we always mean humanity, okay? Not man versus woman. The Yetzer Hara creates division between man and God, man and one's fellow, and man and oneself. That's the job of the Yetzer Hara. And if there's this conflict, if there is discord, disunity, if humanity is fractured and not united in purpose, it's because of the Yetzer Hara. The Yetzer Hara causes us to ignore our soul and to live with the agenda of the body and the body's world and the body's domain exclusively. That's what the Yetzer Hara does. And if I view myself as a body, and I need food, and I need shelter, and I need all these things for my body, and I want to promote the agenda of my physical self, I have bad news. All of y'all, you're competitors. We're fighting for finite resources. They're scarce resources. And it's a zero-sum game because if you have something, I cannot have that thing. That's how the body works. That's how the Yetzer Hara wants us to think. To view other humans as competitors. If we lived as souls, it would be a very different calculus. The Torah tells us you should love your fellow as yourself. Ve'ahavta l'reacha kamocha, as yourself. It doesn't mean, well, I tolerate them. I'll clench my nose and I'll tolerate them because the Torah says I should tolerate them. What it means is that you should literally view another person as yourself, like a right hand and a left hand, a part of the same being. And do you know why? Because if we were just souls, that's exactly how we would view ourselves. Because the souls are actually united. It's only the body that there's a capacity for the Yetzer Hara to create this perception of division. The truth is, we are one soul. I want to read you a wonderful citation from the Tomer Devorah, the great Kabbalistic work written by Rabbi Moshe Cordovero, one of the great Kabbalists. He talks about the unity of the soul. Only on the level of body can there be division. If it's just soul, it's just one soul. And the soul has different elements and manifestations, but it's just one soul. The Talmud tells us all of Israel is completely united and responsible for each other. Why? Because we're just part of one soul. And if I do a sin, it hurts the other part of the soul. Just like, God forbid something has a cancer. And there's cancer in the lungs, God forbid. There's cancer in the pancreas or the stomach or the bladder. Or, God forbid, elsewhere. The arm can say, oh, I'm good, I'm clean, I'm free of any cancer. It's just the heart that has the problem. There's just a stroke in the brain. I'm fine, I'm the left leg. You don't realize you're just as doomed because you're part of one entity. The idea that one person can sin, it's their problem, it's siloed off with them, it's a discrete problem that's only their problem. No, it doesn't work like that. We all got that problem. Just this past week, we read about the golden calf and how Moshe rallies the Levites to go and kill all the perpetrators. And they grab their swords and they go kill the perpetrators. Why are they doing that? They're doing that to save the nation. The nation is like one being, one entity, one body. And there's a cancerous tumor metastasizing. And if we don't excise it, remove it right now with a scalpel, it's going to destroy all of us. Because it's one body, really, it's one soul, it's one nation, it's one entity. And that's what the Torah is telling us. You should love your fellow as yourself. You should realize that you're a soul, not a body. And therefore, you should actually change your perspective from that of the body to that of the soul. You should alter how you view yourself from being a body to being a soul. That's the instruction. That's what Hillel is telling the convert, balancing on one leg. This is all of Torah, the rest is commentary. When Rabbi Akiva said his commentary on this verse, he says, Zeh klal gadol b'Torah. This is a major principle of Torah, because all of Torah really is to change us from being a body to being a soul. We're told that there was one person who most exemplified love of humanity. And that's Aaron. We should be like students of Aaron. Ohev Shalom, loving peace. Rodev Shalom, pursuing peace. Ohev Sabrios, loving humanity. Umekarvim la Torah, bringing them close to Torah. Aaron, he exemplifies love of humanity. And he also exemplifies lack of envy. Moshe was worried when he was commissioned by God to go save the Jewish people. Moshe was worried how Aaron would take that. Send Aaron instead, Moshe urged God. And God says, no, you have it wrong. Aaron's not going to be envious. When he sees you in your glory as the king of the Jews, he's going to be happy, delighted in his heart. Aaron loves humanity, and he has no envy, and those are not two different qualities. If you love humanity, it means you're living as a soul, and if you are as a soul, you have no envy because you just view someone else's success as your own success. Envy is only when you view yourself as being different than others. When you view yourself as being just the right hand to the left hand of someone else, there's no room for envy. All bad flaws, all bad characteristics, pursuit of honor, pursuit of lust, pursuit of any bad thing, envy of others, all that are just reflections. They're just symptoms of being a body first and not being a soul. Aaron loves humanity just as he loves himself, because they're the same. Aaron has no envy. How could you have envy? How could the right hand be envious of the left hand? It's absurd. Such a person will not view others as competitors, doesn't view life as zero-sum, understands that we're all part of one big whole, understands the interdependency of humanity. And this is very rare to find. You find it in Aaron, you find it maybe some other people, but it's rare because we start off life and the Yetzer Hara has a complete control over us. And you can live your whole life and not even know that you have a soul. And you can live your whole life being completely dominated and controlled by the viewpoint, the outlook, the Weltanschauung of the Yetzer Hara. You're a body, and then all you see is just millions and billions of other bodies, and there's just scarce finite resources, and I got to view them as competitors. And if they succeed, well, I feel bad because I lost out, or That makes me feel bad because they're succeeding and I'm not succeeding. That's the attitude of the body. We're different. We're separate. That's a condition of this world. In the Messianic times, it's going to change. There's going to be a unity of humanity. Everyone's going to make one aguda echas, one union, one congregation to serve Hashem. That's the Messianic future. You have individuals today, like Aaron, who become worthy of Torah, as we shall see, because of their interdependence with others. And in the future, we'll see this will be universal and ubiquitous. Everyone who's around, everyone who makes it to the times of Messiah will have this feeling of being a soul. Yetzer Hara has been slaughtered, as we've seen in our Messiah series. One of the hallmarks of the Messianic times, one of the, one of the hallmarks of the Messianic times is the elimination of the Yetzer Hara and everything that accompanies that, all the outlook of the Yetzer Hara. We're going to be united with others, united with the Almighty. The Yetzer Hara that create those barriers between us and ourselves, us and our fellow, us and God, that will disappear. There will be, once again, the unity that is the reflection of the soul. Today, it's very rare. You got to work really hard to get that. In times of the future, it will be natural. But there was one time in history, one time, and one time alone, where an entire nation exemplified this trait. Sandy got it. Sandy got it. At Sinai. At Sinai, chapter 19 of Exodus. The verse tells us they traveled from Rephidim and they came to the wilderness of Sinai. Vayachanu bamidbar, and they encamped in the wilderness. Vayachanu, and they encamped. Vayichan, and he encamped. Sham Yisrael neged ahar. It's a very unusual verse. You read it, chapter 19, verse 2. You have Vayachanu, and they encamped, and right away you have Vayichan, and he encamped. There's a transition from plural to singular. Vayachanu b'nei Yisrael, the Jewish people, the entirety, a bunch of, a plural, lots of people, they encamped in the wilderness, and right away it says, Vayichan, and he encamped opposite the mountain. So they encamped in the wilderness, and he encamped opposite the mountain. So of course, Rashi notices the change in from plural to singular and says, wait a minute, you just told me that they encamped. Why are you saying now, and he encamped? Oh, that individual encamped. So Rashi tells us that there was a change from a plurality, from a mass of individuals to one single entity. The famous words of Rashi, ki ish echad belev echad, like one man with one heart, with one purpose. When they encamped elsewhere, it was a bunch of individuals, beforehand, afterwards, but at one point in history, there was a complete, indivisible unity at Sinai. What does that mean for us? It means that there was total love of others. There was almost the elimination of the Yetzer Hara. There was the elimination of division between man and oneself, man and their fellow, man and God. What happens when there's this elimination of those barriers? That creates the capacity for God to say, okay, there's no division anymore. I can give you my Torah. I can tear apart the heavens and make the Torah available to you. You've removed the division. You're like one man with one purpose. What does that mean? There's no Yetzer Hara. In fact, the Talmud does tell us that the Yetzer Hara was eliminated from them at Sinai. In the classic words of the Talmud, Paska zu hamasam, the venom went away. The venom of the snake, of the serpent, the insertion of that poison that happened at the sin of Adam and Eve, that ceased at Sinai. The Yetzer Hara went away. The Yetzer Hara was eliminated. They're like one man with one purpose. The division went away. There's no division between man and God. Just as there's no division between man and one's fellow, just as no division between man and oneself. That is a ripe opportunity for God to tear open the heavens and make Torah available to humanity. We want Torah. How do you do it? What are the necessary preconditions for Torah? You got to remove those barriers. You got to avail your heart to be a receptacle, a vessel of God's Torah. How do you do that? You got to get rid of all those barriers. And there's really only one barrier. It's called the Yetzer Hara. And that same barrier separates man from oneself, man from their fellow, and woman from her fellow, okay, and man from God, and woman from God, and humanity from God. You remove those barriers, your heart's open to receive God's Torah. So this is the more advanced idea. We have the basic idea, you love your fellow, you want to teach him Torah, okay, you learn from your students. We have the second idea, Moshe, he exemplifies empathy. He lowers himself to be on par with others. God lowers himself to be on par with Moshe, so to speak, as it were. That's how Moshe became worthy of Torah. That's how we can become worthy of Torah as well. And now we see the nation at Sinai. They're united, like one man, one purpose. There's love of one's fellow. They don't view each other as being different, like one man, right hand to the left hand, the left pinky, the right pinky. They're all the same, right? They're part of one entity. There's no room for envy within man and himself. If you view others as yourself, if you love humanity, you are recreating the conditions of Sinai. And thus you are availing yourself to the Almighty's Torah. And that is a deeper idea, the deepest idea perhaps of way number 31. You want to achieve Torah? You want to create a portal in which the divine heavenly Torah can flow into your heart? If you love humanity, that is a wonderful way to do it. Of course, my email address is rabbiwolbe@gmail.com. I look forward to your questions, your comments, and your feedback.